Hey everybody, this is Morgan J. Ingram here on the SDR Chronicles, bringing you guys sales development leaders, practitioners to talk about sales development and gives you guys tips and tricks on how to be more successful in your roles. Today I have Katherine from Apttus, a lot of knowledge in sales development, and she's super excited to be here. And the topic of the day is going to be how to use the data to see success. So I'm super excited to talk about this because I'm not really knowledgeable in this topic that much. So I'm excited to hear what she's going to drop today. And without any further ado, I'm going to let Katherine introduce herself, and we're going to hop into the topic of today's show.
Great. Hi. Thanks, Morgan, for having me on. I'm really excited to be a part of the SDR Chronicles. My name is Katherine Andruha, and I am the Global Sales Development Director here at Apttus, Inc. We have offices across the globe, and I have BDRs that span all the way from APAC, EMEA, as well as the United States. And my team is about 30 and growing. So we're always hiring and looking for new talent, and I'm excited to share some knowledge with the rest of the universe out there.
For sure. And Katherine, tell us why data? Why is the data important?
You know, it's really something that I've started using in my career, and it was because I normally don't pitch vendors, but I went to the Topo Summit, the Revenue Summit last year in San Francisco, and I actually heard Jeffrey Moss speak. He was one of the MIT grads that took Vegas by storm, that movie 21, and he really inspired me to change the way that I look and manage business and make decisions within my industry. And so what I decided to do was, instead of just following gut, which I believe is a great way to run your business, I wanted to make sure that my data aligned with my gut instinct. And so this is especially true as my team is moving into an ABM strategy approach here at Apttus. And so what we did to initially start this was we looked at the different accounts that they had to focus on, but then we really wanted to make sure that we had enough data to back up how many leads were in each account, how many MQLs were the BDRs receiving on a daily basis, what's their actual BDR capacity of how many leads they can follow up on. A lot of companies in the Valley require BDRs to make anywhere between 60 to 80 to 100 dials a day. My team is only required to make 40 dials, which is 40 voicemails per day and 40 emails per day, strictly because of our strategic approach. And we looked at all of the data that we have in the system, and it really allows the BDRs to be more concise in their approach, strategic in their approach, and that's how many MQLs they're also getting. So it's really important that we have enough MQLs to actually follow up on per day. We don't want them to pile up.
I mean, you pretty much broke down a lot of stuff that I wanted to do.
I know, right? We can take it off from there.
Yeah, you just set it up so perfectly. So first, I want to hear 40 dials a day.
Sure.
When I was an SDR, I did 40 to 60. I tell my reps to do 40 to 60. Yep. So how did you come up with just 40?
Well, I looked at the behavior of my BDRs here. Most of my BDRs have been on the floor at Apttus for over a year and a half. We have a very complex product solution. And so to get people up to speed, there's a very long ramp time. So I realized that the people that I had on the floor were far more mature in our product set than having someone just come in to smile and dial. So I wanted to make sure that the calls that they were making were into the correct titles, and that they were looking at the company as a whole. Will this company benefit from the Apttus solution? And I knew that if they were taking a look at the industry, taking a look at the account, and making sure that they were calling the right dials and putting some human thought behind the automatic process of an automatic dialer, that they would be able to get through 40 dials. I also broke it down on the strategy of our ABM approach. Our enterprise BDRs, which is $1.5 billion in revenue and above, have 2 account executives in the field. So we have a very small ratio of 2 to 1. And for that reason, each BDR and each AE choose 10 top accounts for that month that they're going to focus on. And then on top of that, they break it down even further, where they're able to focus on 5 accounts per week and break it up into waves. So wave A is on week 1, wave B is on week 2, wave A goes back to week 3, and then wave B goes back to week 4. So you're interchanging, and you're only focusing on one department within that account for that day. So you're only targeting salespeople, you're only targeting legal people, you're only targeting marketing people, so that your messaging is concise. So from each 5 accounts, you have 5 contacts in each. So you've got 25 contacts for each set of accounts, right? So that's technically 50 dials right there. So what I'm trying to do is set my team up for success as well, and not necessarily have them spend all of their time on the phone. We use Engagio for plays within each of those accounts as well, where you're targeting that department and putting them into very precise plays. And so 40 dials is really the complement to this other additional work of research, farming additional leads into the system, and running with our other platforms.
Yeah, and that makes sense. So you have basically a baseline strategy with the data that you've compromised. And so basically each person basically has that execution once they start, is what I'm guessing.
Correct. And of course, this is a whole new rollout process. This team has been up and running for 2 years, and I was hired on by Apttus to put in this process and procedure in place.
Right.
So we slowly started rolling out these ideas at the beginning of February and letting it trickle in. And now we're like in full blown, all right, guys, like this is how you should be taking your ABM strategy and really launching you into successful metrics.
Yeah, and I really like that. So when you use this data, are you using it for every single rep, as you were saying? Or as a rep gets more tenure and maybe they have different strategies, do you allow them to play outside of the data that you have?
So what we're going to do is, that's a fantastic question, because with this whole ABM strategy, we actually rolled out a new compensation model. And so this new compensation model actually looks at the BDR as a whole. We want them involved in late cycle stages. So most of them want to move into sales. So we want to give them that ability to be involved more towards the end game so that they can prepare themselves for their next career move. And we're also compensating them for being a part of those late stages within the cycle. And so what we've done is we've decided with this new comp plan is we rolled it out just about a week ago, and our quarter ends at the end of April. So we're going to see how the numbers play out till the end of April. And then we're going to take a look at that data. Where were the BDRs successful? Was this a metric that we should be tracking? Should we be paying out at stage 2? How much of ACV is really an AE's opinion of what the dollar amount is going to be versus the initial conversation from a BDR? Are they qualifying from stage 1 to stage 2? What's that conversion ratio look like? And then on top of that, from stage 2 all the way to stage 3, 4, 5, what's our conversion ratio there with this new qualification process, with the tighter MQL scoring, with the titles that we're presenting with them? We're going to look at all of those buckets and how the BDRs are performing, and then readjust the comp if we need to.
Right. So you're basically giving everyone the same type of structure, and basically how does a rep perform within that structure?
Exactly. And then we're going to see, is it that 50% are performing? Well, okay, 50% are performing. Why aren't the other 50% performing? What can we do to up-level them to also be successful? Or is the 50% performing because they're being pushed, or perhaps they have AEs in the field that are willing to help them out more? We want to look at everything and make a wholesome analysis of the data.
So yeah, let's talk about underperforming, right? So what if someone is underperforming? How do you use that data to basically help them be more successful, or to actually show them that, hey, maybe you're not putting enough work as you need to actually hit the numbers that you want to?
So I like to use peer-to-peer strategy. First, of course, I check in with my managers once a week on performance levels of individuals. Really, the ones that catch my eye are either the high performers or the ones at the bottom. And I change my thinking as a leader and really look at those middle people as well. And I want to elevate those middle people to move up. So that's my new strategy for this fiscal year moving forward. And what we do is I want to basically pair up a high-performing BDR with a lower-performing BDR and say, hey, listen, I get that you're struggling. How many cadences do you have with your AE? I encourage my BDRs to reach out to their AEs every single day, whether it's just a voicemail to say, hey, these were the accounts I called into, or hey, I'm having trouble here. Just have that open communication and build that relationship. And I also like to see strategies. All right, well, this BDR took the process that we put in place, which is just should be a framework, right? Your voicemails, your emails are all your personality shining through and getting prospects more interested in Apttus. But I want them to sit down and have that higher performing BDR sit with that lower performing BDR and give knowledge and tips back and what's made them successful. Because you can hear it from a director, you can hear it from a manager, but when you see your peers doing it, it's more concrete.
Yeah, I think that's super important to empower your peer-to-peers to elevate their game based on where they're at. And I think that, everyone needs that encouragement to do better in what they're doing, because I think that if you can look at, maybe, because I think the biggest thing, at least in being in a leadership role now, is to see, okay, you're actually not reaching out to these many accounts, and this is why it's not correlating to success, or maybe you're not doing this and this is not happening for you. So I think that is super important.
Yeah, I refer to as the diet. I think you're going to lose weight if you follow the diet. And so I put the framework in front of them and I'm like, you're going to be really successful if you follow this framework. And it's just framework. You can add your own personalization to it. But if you stick to the mantra, you'll be successful.
Yeah, 100%. And so how do you deal with people who do not want to stick with the mantra of the data?
It comes to a point where you have to sit down and figure out what's motivating them. Why are they coming into work every single day? Is this a career path that they want to choose? Is there a better department that's best suited for them? Here at Apttus, it's really important for us that if they're not happy in the role, we want to find out, are you going to be happier in another role within the company? Because we've put a lot of time and energy and, of course, money into their success here at Apttus, and we want to utilize their strengths in possibly other departments. We've had people move into alliance roles. We've had people move into customer success, and we've had people move into other departments such as marketing. And within marketing, different roles, partner success in marketing, events in marketing, ops in marketing. So there's always a space for them here.
That's good. That's good. I like that approach. And so let's talk about more on the performance of the data, right? So when do you decide to actually change something that maybe it not be working, or when is it time to make those adjustments?
Absolutely. So I like to give everything a 90-day, a quarter, just to see, because there's always a month within every quarter that has a huge holiday in it, right? Whether it's 4th of July or spring break or Christmas or something like that, there's always something that's going to influence that data and cause a dip, an activity or launches or however you record your own data.
Right.
So 90 days gives you that chance to have high volume, low volume, and then high volume then, and then you can look at an average. And so 90 days is the time I typically use. Because we've rolled out this new comp plan and there's a new strategy in place with the field, I want to make sure that comp is reflected properly. So we're giving that more of like a 60-day because I want to see how the behavior has changed or if the numbers really do need to be influenced right away, because comp to me is super important to make sure that your team is motivated for the right behavior.
And speaking of comp, did you base your comp off of data, or is it something that you just talked to other leaders about?
So I did everything. I reached out to other leaders across the valley. I took past compensation models that I put in place at other companies. I spoke to my leadership team here. We started our discussion on comp about 3 months ago. And in order for it to be passed, I had to take it up to, I report into marketing. So I had to take it into my SVP of marketing. She had to approve it. And then after she approved it, I took it to the VP of North America sales. He had to approve it. And then from there, I had to present it to HR, our CRO, finance, and again, the SVP of marketing. And I presented it to them. And then they had to approve it in order for us to actually roll it out. The most important part about compensation is it's not just aligned to what the BDRs are focused on. It's really aligned to what the customer is looking for, as well as what our business needs are from a CRO perspective, as well as a sales perspective. We want to close deals faster at Apttus. So our comp model for BDRs is to find more qualified leads and close them within 9 months. We want the BDRs more involved in selling particular products. So we've spiffed them out on those particular products. There's so much involved in that. We also have them tied to marketing. We use a tool called Apttus All-Stars where BDRs can go in and repost blog posts, surveys, articles from our branding team here in marketing, and they can post it out to social media. That's part of their role as well, is to build brand awareness for Apttus as well as for themselves. So that's all tied into comp.
Awesome. And with the procedures that you have in place, how are you telling SDRs about this and how to use it into their future roles and future careers?
Sure, absolutely. So do you mean within comp or just the new process and procedure around account-based marketing?
Account-based marketing. How are you helping them understand that so they can utilize it on their own and it's not something that has to be brought down on them? That makes sense.
Absolutely. Yeah. I've let them know, hey, this isn't just something that I've come up with, right? I wish I could have coined the terminology, but I certainly didn't. But what I've let them know is that this didn't just come out of thin air, that this has been an evolution of change. So it first started out as account-based marketing, and now it's account-based everything. It's involved in social media, phone calls, emails, your networking skills. And I said, as quickly as you can fine-tune a new process and procedure and adapt to change, the faster you're going to grow in your career. So it's not necessarily even just about our own process and procedure. It's about how quickly can you adapt to data, how quickly can you adapt to change, and how can you use that data to make a powerful, positive change within your organization. So for example, I've gotten a lot of pushback for my 40 dials because the team just was really used to sending out emails, and their emails were very successful. But looking at data from Topo as well as from other organizations, I've noticed that BDRs need to put at least 3.5 voicemails into each contact before they can actually make a difference.
Right.
I use that data to share that knowledge with them. Hey guys, I'm not just looking at our data here, I'm looking at outside resources, which is really important when you move up in your career into management, into team lead positions, that you don't just follow your gut, but you look at what other organizations are doing and how can we make a positive impact on our business using best practices across the valley.
Yeah, that's super huge. And, as we close down this interview and get down to more granular questions, I would love to hear more about the future for you on how you see data coming into play for SDRs.
Sure, absolutely. So my goal, I know I keep referring back to it, is how we just rolled out this compensation.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So my goal is to sit with every single BDR on my floor and just walk them through the process, make sure that they understand our needs as the business and make sure that they're following the framework. And I want to see, hey, is part of the framework working or not working?
Yeah, it's is this good or what?
I can put it in place, but is it going to actually benefit you in any way? And I want direct feedback. And one of my main mottos is I don't like to feel too much in business, which is why I look at data. It's not going to hurt my feelings if you say, hey, Kat, we really can only put in 3 calls into each contact. All right, cool. I'm willing to compromise. At least it's not 1. We put a call counter in place within our fields to link to our inside sales automatic dialer so that it automatically refreshes into a new seek list. Is that working? Is this the best way for you to follow up on your leads? So my goal is to see, all right, which part of the framework is working? Is the waves working? Is the call counter working? Is the title and persona strategy working? Are we focused on the right departments? Do we need new data tools and sets coming in to help you guys move more effectively?
Right. Awesome. And I love it that you've given so much insight on data and how it can actually implement those SDR teams and how SDR leaders out there and even SDRs can start using their own data to see more success. So as we wrap this up, what is the one piece of advice that you give to an SDR as they enter into their new role?
I always let them know this is not the most fabulous role, but it's going to provide you the best foundation to your sales career. Because a BDR, SDR role is so rigorous and day in, day out, you are calling people that chances are don't want to talk to you.
Not at all.
And you have to find a way to captivate them in less than 20 seconds, whether it's through your email, whether it's through a blog post, whether it's through your LinkedIn messaging. You have to find a way to make people interested in your brand. And what's really important is that you're going to use these strategies later on in your career. Because if you're great at prospecting now and you've only been doing this for a year, imagine how great you can be prospecting when you're 10 years down the line and you have a fantastic foundation in place. And you've also been able to look at ways to make your strategy effective, stay organized, and reach out to prospects in a meaningful manner.
Awesome. Well, Katherine, it was so great to have you here on the SDR Chronicles to bring a new light into data. Some people don't like data, right? But I think it's actually exciting to where people actually might be like, great, this is actually something I can do. And also I love the part where you say taking the emotion out of business, because that sometimes can affect this decision. So as I always say, guys, keep dialing, and I'll see you guys soon. Thanks so much, Katherine.
Awesome. Thanks, Morgan, for having me.